Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is going to be just a quick video to give you an idea of who I am. It's not a story of my whole life, but it's a story about 4 different incidences that really stick out and change the direction of my life. First started out working here at Jackson Heating and Air. I started out working with my grandfather in the junkyard through day after day of working with him on the summers and so forth. My grandfather instilled in me the knowledge and the understanding that things that are important in life take time. You build on them, you work hard. They don't come easy. From working in the junkyard, he encouraged me every day to pick up the little bits and pieces. And what he was explaining to me while I was doing that was that those little bitty bits of copper and metal and junk, when you collect them together after your hard work all day long, those little bitty giblets is what he used to call it, that represented pennies, well, they would turn into nickels. And then if you collected enough nickels, they would turn into dimes, and dimes turned into quarters. So that's one thing that my grandfather taught me that I'll always remember and I'll always appreciate. The next story in my life as I got a little bit older that I'll never forget was a particular incident that me and a couple of my friends were out spending the night. We were camping out in the woods, and we came across a railroad track. We honestly thought the railroad track was abandoned, and there was a little light structure on there. And after, doing typical kid stuff, we were 12, 13 years old, I think. We had the bright idea that we would break the lens that was in this light that we found in the middle of nowhere on the railroad tracks. So after forever, it seemed like we finally accomplished our goal of vandalizing this structure. And in the middle of the night, it's kind of a funny story now, but in the middle of the night, literally there were helicopters out to investigate this middle of the nowhere structure that we thought was abandoned. And needless to say, this group of 4 of us 13-year-old boys were scared to death. But the next morning, something very important happened. As we got up and we just continued to act like normal 13-year-old boys and forget all about what happened the night before, and we were out riding around our motorcycles. We were driving down toward the railroad tracks where we were the night before, and out of nowhere, my dad stepped out of the woods, nearly ran over him with my motorcycle, and had a friend on the back of it with me. And I'll never forget what happened, because he didn't yell and scream. I think his wisdom, he knew exactly what had happened. But also in his wisdom, he saw a great learning opportunity for me. And I'll never forget the way he looked me dead in the eyes, and he said, I want you to think long and hard before you answer this, but I want to know, did you have anything to do with what happened on the railroad track? And he allowed me to process that. Because the one thing he taught me growing up that I'll always appreciate was to never lie. It's the one thing that I'm confident in saying that my dad hates, is someone who lies. So I told him the truth. And then the learning process continued, because he allowed me to face the consequences. I had to go down to the railroad track, tell the men that were working on it already, this was only like 5 hours later, that what we had done, when we had done it. And then he allowed me to go to the sheriff department, go before the judge, admit what we had done, and had to pay the restitution. Ended up having to sell my motorcycle in order to pay our fine, because unbeknownst to us, that lens that took us an hour to break cost about $1,400. The next most memorable thing in my life was when I met Sarah Jackson. She was named Sarah Taylor at the time. And we had been talking and so forth, and I've been asking her out, and I finally asked her over to my house. I wanted to, we were in college and wanted to fix her dinner. And I knew that night when I asked her over to my house that I was going to marry her, because her response to me asking her over to my apartment was no. But it was the reason why it was no. And she said because that would be inappropriate for a 19, 20-year-old young lady to be in an apartment alone with another man that she barely knew. I think we had maybe officially went out one time before that, so that's always stuck out in my mind. The last story I'll tell you was when me and Sarah, it's been about 4 years ago now, when we were sitting down with a doctor after we had been experiencing some difficulties with our son, Colin. And the doctor explained to us that since he was born, he had been having seizures. These weren't, we couldn't even tell that he was having them, but it had been doing damage to his brain and not being able to grow and learn. And so that's what we've been dealing with for the past 4 years, but I'm thankful to say that our church family has been there with us through it, and we appreciate the love of Christ that they show to us, and the love that they show to our son Colin. So in a nutshell, that's not my whole life story, but I think right now those are the 4 main stories that have shaped my life, and I hope you enjoy the videos that I post later. Thank you.